The superficiality and speed, popular trend focus, soundbite, social media, impatient tone of the world today is driving a lot of shallow thinking. And the great challenges in front of us, the complex challenges in front of us, are not solved through shallow thinking. We see people all the time getting into the media and social media expressing an opinion pretending as if it's fact. There is a difference between fact, evidence-based, researched information and opinion. Opinion is fundamentally flawed. Here you need two things to create and hold on to an opinion. You do need information to form the opinion, of course, but then you need something else quite unique to hold on to that opinion in the face of all other evidence to the contrary. One of the things you must have to hold on to your opinion is ignorance of every other possible scenario or dimension that might disagree with you. You can only believe that the world is flat if you choose to remain ignorant of all evidence to the contrary. Opinion is fundamentally flawed. Fact and evidence, research-based thinking, debated thinking, contextually relevant thinking, multi-dimensional and multi-perspective thinking is the key to get to the base, to the core, to the real profound genius required to solve our most complex problems. And so opinion is fast, opinion is impatient, profound thinking is slow. It takes time, and we don't reward thinking in today's world. Imagine if a manager was walking through the office and one of their employees was sitting at their desk staring into space, and I asked them, "What you're doing?" And they said, "I'm just thinking." What might that average manager's response be? Get on with it. Do some work. If your fingers aren't on the keyboard, then we're not doing work. And yet thinking is the most important work that there is. And the key to great thinking is a simple strategy that is evaporating in today's world. And it is the idea of pause. In the space between stimulus and response lies free will. In humans, it's really stimulus learned response. Something happens and we execute the learned response. In animals, it is stimulus response. It's nature. But in humans, we have this space in the middle called free will where we could discern what that stimulus really actually means and therefore what is an appropriate response. And in that space in the middle, we execute the deeper thinking required, the deeper thinking responsible of a being that has free will. And so what we actually need is stimulus, pause, and response. The key to great thinking is to take a breath, to slow down, to pause. I have mechanisms that I've set up around my own workflow and work practices to create pause. I always go back to context when I'm thinking through something. I want to create pause. I draw visual models and I use visual models to sponsor thinking. Why is that? Because there's a pause required for me just to identify the geometric shape of the context, of the concept that I'm dealing with. It's true, every concept can be represented in geometry. And just trying to capture the geometry first without thinking through the concepts and the contexts allows me time to start to think about the nature of this thing that I'm dealing with. I think about context. What is the consequence of this? What is the relevance of this? A species ceases to exist when it is no longer relevant to the environment, when it has not adapted. So I think through context, and then I think about how I can represent that context in that visual model. When I'm working with a group of people, if I ask them to think about the model first and we start to populate the model, it creates a natural pause in the room. Then the concepts can come in. Think about your inbox. What if you turned automatic send and receive off and you only did a send and receive twice a day, 10:30 in the morning, 4:30 in the afternoon, and you responded to the emails that come in at that time, but they don't get sent until the next time you run send and receive. At 4:30 in the afternoon, before you run send and receive, you read back through all of the responses you've written. I wonder how much conflict you might head off just by doing that. I wonder how much misunderstanding you might reduce just by doing that. Turning off your automatic send and receive is a pause mechanism. How do you respond when someone disagrees with you, and they disagree with you in a raised voice or in an aggressive or semi-aggressive manner? Do you immediately feel yourself start bristling? Or do you think to yourself, I wonder what's going on for them that they have to be like that? In other words, detach yourself from the conversation that's going on and just actually see the person. What are your pause mechanisms? In an increasingly fast-paced world that is being pushed at a faster and faster pace through technology, our ability to create human pause in thinking is the only way we'll get to the profound solutions that the world requires. Think about how the great philosophers would have come up with their ideas, or Newton might have found gravity if sitting under the apple tree he had a phone in front of him that he was scrolling through the whole time with no pause at all to even notice the apple falling to the ground. Pause is a superpower. It's one of the most devastating tactics in sport, the pause and the head fake, and it is a superpower for leaders and stewards.